Here we are. Just squeeze out my green tea bag. Trying to be ultra healthy nowadays. Well, not trying. I am being much more health conscious.
Right.
I've got to lose some more weight again, so
Same.
snuck back on, rascal. So, Stan, how are you?
Too many parties going away.
That's true. Yes, too much wine drinking and merriment. And
Wine is health food.
eh?
Isn't wine health food?
Well, yes, it's got fruit in it.
It is. One glass is healthy.
Oh, a glass. I thought it was a bottle.
Oh,
Yeah,
there would be a problem.
Yes, darn it. You always know this stuff, Stan. I get confused. Anyway, we're here to discuss James Clear's Atomic Habits, and we are looking at part 2. I think it was chapter 2, not chapter 2, section 2, which was chapters 8 to 10. And that is the second law, making it attractive. So who remembers what the first law was?
Wasn't it making it unattractive? I don't know.
No, it was making it obvious.
You know,
Can't make it any more obvious than that. So we started off with the fundamentals, why tiny changes make a big difference, and the surprising power of atomic habits. We explained the background to it all, and how habits shape our behavior. And it's a lot of little decisions that lead to where we are today. And it starts with those habits. So habits shape your identity and vice versa. And how to build better habits in 4 simple steps, what were the 4 simple steps? Can we remember?
We can look at that.
Is that the cue, the craving, the chocolate bar, something,
and the reward?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so I told you there was a chocolate bar in there.
Yep. So, and then the first law was making it obvious. So, he talked about how we get our skill sets, where we sort of spot things on subconscious level because we're really good at things. You know, use Malcolm Gladwell's 10,000 hours principle. Once we become expert in our chosen field, whatever that is, and he told the story about the paramedic spotting the guy at the dinner party and saying, "You need to get to hospital," and he said, "But I feel fine." But she saw the warning signs that he was going to have a heart attack, and sure enough, he did. And there was the military commander who was looking at the radar and could spot the difference between a friendly aircraft and an enemy aircraft, even though the blips on the radar screen were exactly the same. There was some clues in the behavior patterns, something in the way it looked to him or felt to him. He just instinctively knew that that was an enemy aircraft, and saved thousands of lives by having the enemy aircraft shot down. So, what am I going to do? Stan, can I make you a co-host and ask? Oh, maybe that's not the right one because your internet's bad, isn't it?
I was just a bit slow this morning.
It's saying that my iCloud drive will not work properly unless I free up some space. I'm having problems with my computer and how to free up space. Maybe Coralie, if I make you a co-host, let's see, how do I do that?
Go to participants.
Or
click on their name,
make co-host, and then you could, if you could hit the record button and save it to the cloud, and then I can get it off you when possible. And now we've got Christopher joining us as well. Good morning, Chris. Oh, yes, still morning where you are? Just.
It just says it's recording. I don't know how.
Yeah, it says it's recording. Oh, no, hang on. Let me see if I stop recording, maybe, and then you start recording. I don't know. Let me see. I don't seem to have that recording button on there anymore. Oh, I can do stop recording and then get you to record it from there. So let's see if I stop recording. And then I can get it off you on Dropbox or something after. We'll figure it out. The main thing is we don't lose the recording. So Chris, good morning. Welcome
Good morning.
to the meeting.
Thank you.
You weren't with us last week, were you?
No,
No. Have you had a chance to look at this book at all, Atomic Habits?
I might have it actually.
Again, clear. Okay, so we're reviewing this book, so you'll get benefit out of this anyway, even if you haven't had a chance to read it yet. Well, have you read it? If you've got the book, do you think you might have read it?
I don't know how long ago was that book published. I've read a number of things, at least a summary.
Now you're asking me a tricky question. It was copyright 2018, published in 2018 in the UK.
I might have browsed it in the motivation or business section. These are the kind of books which draw me in.
Yes. So we're talking about how, so you goes through fundamentals and why tiny habit changes make a big difference in your life. And then we went into making it obvious. So the first law was about making it obvious. If you want to change something, make it that it's easy for you to do the thing that you want to do, the new habit, and make it difficult for yourself to not do the thing that you don't want to do. So for instance, if you have to have chocolate in the house because there's kids or something, but you don't really want to eat it, then put it away in a cupboard, in a container where you're not sort of looking at it, even though sometimes it crawls out of the cupboard to you. I know that it can do that. It's very sneaky, that stuff. But you make it a little bit harder than having it sort of right in front of you. Or, you know, if you're, the other example it gave was if you want to play guitar, have your guitar in the lounge room or somewhere where you can see it easily, and then, you know, it sort of reminds your conscious mind to go, oh, I must play guitar, you know, I said I was going to do it. And or the one about the running shoes, having your running shoes next to your bed, so the first thing you do in the morning if you wanted to get up and go for a run is you make it easy by having the running shoes right there as a prompter, as a reminder. And the gateway habits, I think do we ever come to gateway habits yet, where the act of putting on your running shoes means you're going to go running, you're not then going to sit on the lounge, you know. So we've come to the second law, which is chapters 8 to 10, which is about making it attractive. So how do we make a habit attractive? Well, we start with chapter 8, how to make it irresistible. So he gave this example about herring gulls having a small red dot on the beak, and noticed that newly hatched chicks would peck this spot whenever they wanted food. And they did this sort of scientific experiment where they started putting all sorts of weird things, red spots there, and the mother bird would go, and if they fell out of the nest, it was her instinctive reaction to go and put them back in the nest. And then they were finding that even a table tennis ball, you know, the mother would go and treat that as if it was one of her chicks and put it back in the nest.
That was the gooses.
Gooses was it gooses? Geeses.
The gooses. There was the birds with the red dot. The seabirds, and then there was the geese that would
that's
roll
right,
round things back into the net.
The grey-lag goose. So what was the other one? The herring gulls. So the herring gulls, yes, they pecked at the red dot, and the grey-lag goose would roll things back into its nest, even if it wasn't an actual thing. It was just, it had an instinctive rule: when I see a round object nearby, I must roll it back into the nest. The bigger the round object, the harder I should try to get it. So they even put some ridiculous things like a volleyball, and one goose made a tremendous effort to roll a volleyball back in and sit on top of it. So then he said that scientists refer to these as supernormal stimuli. So we have them too as humans. A supernormal stimulus is a heightened version of reality. So, for example, he talked about junk food and how we have, over the centuries, we have come to regard foods with placing a high value on salt, sugar, and fat. Now, the fast food companies have recognized that, and they literally send our taste buds into a frenzy when you go and eat Mac stuff, whatever the Mac stuff is. And we don't need the calories, we don't need the sugar, and we don't need all that, but it tastes so good, we just feel like we have to have it. So they are very clever, not just with fast food, but they've done it with all sorts of foods, and hence we have problems with obesity in our society, where everyone eats all this stuff that's not good for them because it tastes so darn good. And it's hard to resist, even when you know that it's not good for you. So, and he talks about the fact that with natural unprocessed foods, you get the same sensation over and over. So he said, I love this quote, how does that 17th bite of kale taste? It just tastes boring, and you're full, you don't want any more, you're not interested anymore. Whereas the 17th taste of chocolate still tastes like it makes you want to eat more and more and more, doesn't it? And so you can sit there and eat the whole chocolate bar. Well, I could. Before I formed atomic habits that stopped me doing that. So we've got too good at pushing our own buttons, says one expert. So the more attractive an opportunity is, the more likely it is to become habit forming. So talked about things like retail stores having mannequins with exaggerated hips and boobs to sell clothes. Social media delivers more likes and praise in a few minutes than we could ever get in the office or in the home. Doesn't it feel good to get all those likes and shares of posts? It validates, yes, I must be good. I must be clever because I've said something smart and everyone's shared it or everyone's liked it. Porn, same sort of thing. It impossible to replicate in real life. Adverts created with a combination of ideal lighting, professional makeup, and photoshopped edits. So we have all these models that look perfect, and then we have all these ladies that are trying to emulate these models and thinking, what's wrong with me? Why don't I look like that? And yet, they haven't had all their hair and makeup and everything that these girls have done. That's an artificial, exaggerated sort of situation. So we have all these excessive habits that we've formed because all these things have been presented to us in such a way to make them really attractive. So, video games, more concentrated form of play than the old board games. As he says, compared to nature, these pleasure-packed experiences are hard to resist, which is why we've got all these teenagers locked away in dark rooms playing video games all the time, instead of actually being out mixing with each other and going out socializing and so on. They're doing their socializing online. So we look at the biological signature that all of these habits share, the dopamine spike. Just read a very interesting book actually called The Dopamine Nation, which talks a lot about all this. So, they did research on rats about dopamine. And
that was interesting, eh?
Hey?
I thought that was really interesting that the rats died when they didn't have dopamine.
Yeah, without desire, action stopped. Yeah, fascinating stuff. So dopamine is released not only when you experience pleasure, but also when you anticipate it. So it talks about the anticipation of a reward, not the fulfillment of it, that gets us to take action. And I love this great example. As a child, thinking about Christmas morning can be better than opening the gifts. We start telling the kids, oh, Santa's coming, and you've got to be good. And isn't it going to be exciting? Santa's coming, and it doesn't matter what the presents are, really. It's always something exciting, something different, you know. Interesting one. An upcoming vacation can be more enjoyable than actually being on vacation. So it's the looking forward to it. That, oh, goodness me, I'm going to get to go away. It's going to be so good. Have a break from the routine. So he says your brain has far more neural circuitry allocated for wanting rewards than for liking them. This is highlighted in orange as well. Desire is the engine that drives behavior. Every action is taken because of the anticipation that precedes it. It is the craving that leads to the response. So remember our 4 tips from the beginning chapter was cue, craving, response, reward. So we get the cue, we then build up the craving, we're going to respond to it. So he talks about this strategy called temptation bundling. So that works by linking an action that you want to do with an action that you need to do. So remember, there was that guy who wanted to get fit, but he also wanted to watch Netflix, which, you know, he needed to get fit, but he wanted to watch Netflix. So he wired up his TV set to his treadmill so that he could exercise. And if it didn't reach a certain speed, the internet that cut out and then his Netflix stopped working. Wasn't that how he did it? So if he didn't keep up the speed, he couldn't get to watch Netflix. Very, very clever. So he talks about then television stations and how they're masters at temptation bundling, and how they had Thursday nights were set up as the night that you could you needed to watch their shows and wanted to relax, drink wine and eat popcorn. So they actually did the marketing that way, that, you know, you could bundle those things together. And isn't that true, how it's so easy to sit in front of the TV and start eating stuff even when you're not hungry? Start snacking on things because you've kind of, and you go to the movies and you see all these people going and buying popcorn because they've been conditioned that if you go to the movies, you buy popcorn. I never eat popcorn normally. I wouldn't even think about it. Why would I suddenly go and eat popcorn? It's because they've conditioned you that when you go to the movies, oh, should we get some popcorn? And it smells so good when you're walking in as well. I don't eat it now. I resist that temptation. I've broken that habit.
Oh, it's not that good anyway, is it?
No.
The popcorn's okay. It's what's on it that's the problem.
Yeah, right. Correct, Stan.
I think I go to a bad theatre and it's all sort of stale and, yeah, not that good. And they charge $10 for it.
Yeah, it's like extortionate price. It doesn't really taste that good. So you don't, after you've had it, you're like, why did I just eat that?
Yeah.
Because it was there in front of me. Yes. So the habit stacking plus temptation bundling formula is 1, after this current habit, I will, habit I need. 2, after habit I need, I will, habit I want. So that can best be explained because it sounds a bit like gobbledygook, doesn't it? If you want to read the news, but you need to express more gratitude. 1, after I get my morning coffee, I will say one thing I'm grateful for that happened yesterday. That's what I need to do to get the gratitude happening. 2, after I say one thing I'm grateful for, I will read the news, which is the thing I want to do. So it's linking the thing that you need to do, or you want, like you feel you need to improve on, like a habit you need to develop, or a habit you want to break. Before you get the reward of doing the thing that you want to do, you do the thing that you need to do. So an example in an office situation might be you need to answer some emails, but you want to look at the soccer results. So you go, I'll only look at the soccer results after I've answered the email. So it's a matter of thinking in your own life, where are the things that I want to change, but what do I actually like doing? And can I tie those two things together? So you're withholding the reward from yourself until you've done the thing that you know you need to do. So it's rather than relying on your willpower, well, still using your willpower, but rather than relying on the whims that we have of, oh, I could really go a piece of chocolate now, or, oh, you know, I really want to go to the pie shop and buy a pie. but you've got to make yourself do something that you know you need to do first before you get any of the rewards. So for instance, after I get back from my lunch break, I will call 3 potential clients. So you need to call the clients to get the business in the door, but and then after I've called them, I will check ESPN. There you go. There's the sports results. So that's the thing you want to do, but you do the thing you need to do first. How about this one? After I pull out my phone, I will do 10 burpees. After I do 10 burpees, then I will check Facebook. So it's, you know, James Clear used the one he talked about in the earlier chapter where he wanted to do push-ups, and but he'd made it vague. Remember, he said, oh, after I finish work, I'll do my push-ups. But then it was like, well, when exactly? So then it became, well, as I close the laptop, I'll immediately get on the office floor and do 10 push-ups, because then it was specific, and then he made himself do it. But in this case, you want to attach a reward to it as well. So it might be, I don't know, the rewards, you go and make yourself a cup of tea, but you don't make the cup of tea that you want until you've done the 10 push-ups. Okay, anyone got any examples where they've done that? Anything you can think of where you've sneakily used this formula without even realizing it, perhaps?
Yeah, I do that. Every day I actually draw up a list of stuff like 1 to 10, and I have kind of reward to do every 2 to 3 things I tick off. So it's like do 2 things I have to do, which are important. Then after that, do something which is much more pleasurable. So every time I tick something, I go back to the other thing. So it's a way for me to advance and get things done.
Good.
And you don't do this, do you, Christopher? Like get out of bed, make a list, tick things off list, you know, tick, 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 that's 3 ticks already. Yes.
Yeah, and that's actually quite important. Some of the things could be just like brush your teeth or do the laundry, and you know, it's things that you have to do, or throw the rubbish and you have to get rid of the kitty litter. So as long as I'm advancing, and sometimes it means like the rewarding thing is just take an hour break and have a rest and shut eye, and I need to catch up on my sleep deficit. So those are things which are also important, which I put on the to-do list, even like calling something which is quite mundane, but it gets things done.
Absolutely. And I think it depends on your environment too, as to what type of work you're doing, where you are. If you're at home, it's a really good idea to have lists like that, because there's so many distractions available to you as well. It's a bit different if you're out in a workplace, or like when I'm out with I've been working lately in my cleaning business, I make a schedule for myself of the buildings that I'm going to go to, and I tick them off as I do them, or put some bins out or something. So they're all, and as I'm working through the day and I'm ticking things off, I feel like I'm getting somewhere. And it's, you know, you get excited about getting this list complete and ticking them all off. So that means I get to go home again. So, but if I'm at home, have you ever found yourself do this? You write a list like that, and then you go, oh, hang on, I just did so-and-so. Even though I've already done it, I'll write it on my list and then tick it, because then I know that's an extra thing that I've done. And it's sort of making me feel better about what I've achieved that day.
Yeah, I do it in clusters as well. I also do it using my reminders app as well as on paper, so that it emphasizes the fact that I'm actually making some progress along the way. And a number of the things which don't have, what do you call, a number of things people struggle with. I don't have struggles with, but I struggle with other things as well. And I need to tell myself, sometimes these little tick off things are like these dopamine bits as well, which are, what do you say, the easy stuff. But that's not the problem about the ticking off. The hard things are eating the frogs, the large, important, urgent stuff, which starts building up. And some of these things also, I will have to break down into smaller components, like if I need to respond to something, I will just put little points, like for example, okay, print out the form, then after that, segment, fill it out, then I would say scan it, then email it. So it's like I've done 4 things, you know. So it
that is a good point, because there are some tasks that actually do have multiple stages to them. And so you might sort of feel a bit frustrated you haven't completed the task, and yet you might have done 2 or 3 of the stages, especially if it's something you don't for some reason get to finish that day. At least you've done something towards it. And you know, so again, it's reminding yourself and making yourself feel good about your progress. We want to feel like
I remember the time whereby I used to have to run, not by choice, but I mean, as part of the military, we were supposed to do this 2.4 kilometer run, and I hated that. And the way I got through it was to use that analogy of the small goalposts. I would say, run to that tree. So I'll run to that tree. I'll say, run to the next tree, rather than say, oh no, it's this whole 2.4 thing. So I would have these spurts. Okay, I've done this, I've done that. So it's giving me that, okay, I'm progressing along the way, and yay, it's like a cheerleader, but you have to cheer yourself.
Absolutely. I actually, when we did the Inca Trail, there was one of our group, it was a Italian girl from London. She was really struggling with altitude sickness. And on day 2 of the Inca Trail, we had to go up the steepest part of the climb. It was up to this section that was called Dead Man's Pass. So we were going up to 4,215 meters above sea level. And she was feeling really pretty bad. And she was actually stopped to throw up a couple of times. And it ended up that I stayed back from like the rest of the group to help her, because she was struggling so much. And so I just walked at her pace and stayed with her, because it made it easier for me too. But I was doing exactly what you've just said, Christopher. We're going, come on, let's just make it to that tree there. If we can just get there, then we'll pause and have a break. So the thing was, you got tired really quickly with the altitude, but then your recovery was also quite fast. So you know, you do a few meters and then you'd be exhausted, but then you just wait a few seconds and you get your breath back and you could go again. And that's how we got up that mountain pass that day, was just by literally doing that, just going, okay, that tree there, another 10 meters, you know, come on, let's keep moving forwards. And it took us.
So the way to climb a mountain is one step at a time.
Exactly. And was it Lao Tzu or somebody? No, Confucius. The journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step.
Yeah. Confucius say.
Yeah. So very often we overestimate what we can do in the short term. We underestimate what we can do in the long term. So progress is the important thing. So making the habit attractive. So go on to chapter 9.
Sorry, I gotta go. My cat did a poo.
Disaster. Don't forget to put that in your list.
Oh, this one's urgent. I let me just see whether I can pause this thing.
So the role of family and friends in shaping your habit. So okay, this was the story of Laszlo and his wife Clara, and how they decided they were doing an experiment on.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to figure out how to
become chess
stop this.
prodigies.
I'll have to leave. Sorry.
That's all right. So, how to become chess prodigies. And we watched a Netflix series that was based on this, I think. What was it called now? It was all about the family of the girl that was chess champion. I can't think what it was called. But anyway.
There's one called The Queen's Gambit.
That's it. I think that's loosely based on this, isn't it?
No, that was based on someone else that did chess.
Oh, okay. So just coincidence then. This guy was teaching his children. So it's just the reason I thought about this is that there's an example here where one night Laszlo reportedly found Sophia playing chess in the bathroom in the middle of the night, and that was in that series. And he said, trying to get her to go back to sleep, he said, Sophia, leave the pieces alone. And she said, Daddy, they won't leave me alone. She'd actually see all the chess pieces in her mind in the bathroom. That was in that program, so that's what made me think it was the same thing. Okay, then the seductive pull of social norms. Charles Darwin noted, in the long history of humankind, those who learn to collaborate and improvise most effectively have prevailed. As a result, one of the deepest human desires is to belong. This is part of why we find it so important to belong and to feel like we are part of something and that people like us. Because to not be liked means you're outside the herd. You know, you're outside the cave, out with the wild animals, instead of sat around the fire with everybody else. So we are herd animals in the sense that we want to fit in, we want to bond and earn people's respect and approval. So behaviors are attractive when they help us to fit in. We imitate the habits of three groups in particular: 1, the close; 2, the many; and 3, the powerful. Each group offers an opportunity to leverage the second law of behavior change and make our habits more attractive. So imitating the close, we pick up habits from the people around us. Isn't that true?
Yes.
Think about it. For instance, we copy the way our parents handle arguments, the way our peers flirt with one another, the way our co-workers get results. If your friends decide to smoke marijuana, you might give it a go as well, whereas you might not have done otherwise. And if your wife has a habit of double checking that the door is locked before going to bed, you probably pick that habit up as well. So true. So the closer we are to someone, the more likely we are to imitate some of their habits. Anyone think of any examples of that?
I think you do everything exactly the same as the people around you, unless you decide not to.
Yeah, it's powerful, isn't it? My first wife had this strange habit of washing mince, like mincemeat, because she washed all steak and everything in case the butcher had dropped it on the floor. But she used to wash mince, and I was like, what? But that was the reason she did it, was because her mum had always done it. When I said to her, why'd you do it? Well, mum always used to do that.
You know, it's not stupid. That reminds me, if I had this flat and we could look down into the back of a butcher's, and the butcher or whoever it was standing there putting meat in the mincer with a cigarette in their mouth, and the ash would go into the mince, and they didn't care.
Yeah, I used to watch the butchers making mince. I tell you what, that would put you off eating. But anyway, yeah, so I mean, if your partner, that's why we found when Joe and I went into the keto program, started really working on our fitness during the lockdown. That's what sort of prompted it. It was like, right, here's a great opportunity. We're in lockdown. Let's sort out our weight management issues. But because we were both doing it, it's a lot easier because you haven't got that temptation. If one of you is sitting there stuffing their face with chocolate or something, it makes it harder for the other one. But if you're both committed to the same thing, then you both do the right thing, you know, so it really does make a difference. What was that old saying? Birds of a feather flock together. Watch out who you hang out with, because if you've got especially teenage kids, you don't want them associating with the wrong teenage kids who are doing drugs and getting up to mischief, do you? You want them to be associating with the studious kids who are getting good grades and good at sport and all that sort of thing, the ideal kids, you know. So true, isn't it? So our friends and family provide a sort of invisible peer pressure that pulls us in their direction. Well, of course, it could be you pulling other people in your direction. So one of the most effective things you can do to build better habits is to join a culture where your desired behavior is the normal behavior. So if you wanted to get fit and you join a gym, you want to hang out with the people who are going to the gym regularly and chatting about going to the gym and all that, because then it's going to motivate you to carry on doing it because you want to fit in with them. You join a motivational group because you're all motivated and you keep each other motivated. Same sort of principle. Surround yourself with people who have the habits you want to have yourself. You'll rise together. Well, two things to add to that. So he says, join a culture where 1, your desired behavior is the normal behavior, and 2, you already have something in common with the group. When I really wanted to play more guitar, I joined a group who was all meeting up once a month for they called it Guitars by the Glass. So we went to a restaurant and we were drinking wine, but we were all playing songs together. And so the guy who was running it had produced these songbooks, and we'd go around the table and each take it in turn to pick a song that we were all going to play. So it'd be, okay, book 3, song page 12, Hotel California. Right, we're all going to play Hotel California together. And the fact that we all went there and did it together, I mean, we did it. We went and played guitar more often than we would if it was left to you on your own. So nothing sustains motivation better than belonging to the tribe. It transforms a personal quest into a shared one. The shared identity begins to reinforce your personal identity. This is why remaining part of a group after achieving a goal is crucial to maintaining your habits. It's friendship and community that embed a new identity and help behaviors to last over the long run. So yes, it's easier when there's a few of you doing it together, isn't it? So that was imitating the close. Imitating the many, point number 2, was about how you, well, they did experiments where if you've got an audience and you do something ridiculous, and you know, did you see that girl put that orange on her head or something, and you're sitting there going, well, yes, of course I saw her put the orange on the head, but everyone else goes, what are you talking about? There was no orange. You made that up. There's no orange. And if enough people convince you the complete opposite, you start to doubt yourself. Start to doubt, did I actually see what I thought I saw? And that's how people get people into cults and things like that, isn't it? Start to tell everyone and convince them that this is the way you're supposed to do it. This is what we all do. So he says most days we'd rather be wrong with the crowd than be right by ourselves. That's scary, isn't it? How easy it is to influence public opinion. When changing your habits means challenging the tribe, change is unattractive. When changing your habits means fitting in with the tribe, change is very attractive. Anyone had an example of that in life?
Oh, heaps. But like doing keto is one of them, because I'm on my own with that.
Yeah, and that makes it hard. If the rest of the family, we've got a friend who uses that as an excuse though, where she says, oh, I can't stick to my diet plan because you know, the family wants this and this and this, and if I'm making it for them, I might as well eat it as well.
Yeah.
No, you don't have to.
I always start out with that of trying to, you know, make it fit with everyone else. But
You need extra willpower to do it, don't you?
I don't know, it's just a way of life now.
Yeah. So you've made it your new habit.
Yeah.
Well done. Imitating the powerful is number 3. So humans everywhere pursue power, prestige, and status. We're drawn to behaviors that earn us respect, approval, admiration, and status. It's why people volunteer to be head of committees and things like that. Because you want the status, you want the approval, you want the respect. It also might just be that you like getting stuff done, and you know you're
Mm.
confident that you can be the organizer or the leader. You'll get it done. Once we fit in, we start looking for ways to stand out. Isn't that ironic? I want to do the same as everyone else, but I want to be the leader. I want to do it better. We try to copy the behavior of successful people because we desire success ourselves.
That's just sensible, isn't it?
Yeah, it is smart. Many of our daily habits are imitations of people we admire. Well, it makes sense, doesn't it? If you want to be like that person, if you want the results that they're getting, you duplicate what they're doing. You model yourself on them. It's marketing 101.
Yeah.
So likewise, if you wanted to lose weight and you've got someone that's an expert in keto, for example, you copy their diet plan, you copy their menus, you look at what they're doing and the way they're doing it, and you duplicate it because it worked for them. So why wouldn't it work for you? It should work for you as well. So the culture, to summarize that chapter, the culture we live in determines which behaviors are attractive to us. We adopt habits that are praised and approved by our culture because we have a strong desire to fit in and belong to the tribe. And that's why it's often said, watch who you hang out with and what their habits are and what their culture and their beliefs are, because you'll probably be the average of that group. So if you want to achieve more, hang out with more high achievers rather than people who are going nowhere. And that can be difficult to start with because you're changing a pattern, or you might feel like you're being disloyal to friends that you've hung out with for a while. But then sometimes we outgrow that situation, don't we?
Mm.
We want to move forwards. So chapter 10, last chapter that we're doing today, how to find and fix the causes of your bad habits. Okay. Smoking. Luckily, I never started. My father put me off.
And I did what he talked about with Alan Carr's book. I read that and stopped.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And what was the trick?
I think it was that everything that's said in that book, I'm like, oh yeah, that and that and that, yeah. And that I could still go outside for 10 minutes. I didn't have to have a cigarette in my hand. And yeah, so I wasn't missing out on anything if I didn't smoke. And like it said that it actually doesn't relieve stress. I thought, well, that's true, because I actually was living cigarette to cigarette. And yeah, so I was sort of bored with that. And I actually didn't know sort of life not feeling like that. And I thought I'd like to try that, not hanging out for my next smoke, because I always was. Once I'd finished one, I was thinking about when I was going to have the next one.
Yeah.
A friend of mine got off the cigarettes by he was only allowed to smoke on the hour every hour. And if you missed it, so if it was 12:01, you had to wait till the next hour. And then he like increased it to like 2 hours and 3 hours and
yeah,
and like eventually just got off, and like if it wasn't 12 o'clock when you started the cigarette, then you didn't have it.
Yeah. I think also you go back to what he talked about earlier about your identity being linked to something. And so instead of being the smoker who's quitting, you think as I am a non-smoker. So you are, and you focus on what you're gaining, your health, your clothes smelling better, and extra money in your pocket that you can spend on other things. So that was another one, was take the money you would have spent on the packet of cigarettes and put it in a bank account to save towards something you really want to do. So you can see that there's the reward then of seeing the bank account grow each time you had the craving. So little things like that. I thought it was very interesting that I can't remember where it was in the book. I remember because I was listening to the audiobook, but where he said, do you remember that a little while ago they did these campaigns where they put pictures of diseased lungs and you know, yellow.
That's the now cigarette packets.
So what does that actually do? Is it doesn't put the smoker off smoking, it just makes them more stressed. So they do go to their go-to fallback for how they deal with stress is to have a cigarette. So it actually makes them more likely to smoke, and it completely defeats the purpose.
Kevin still smokes. I hate seeing those packets. I don't want to look at that.
So where do cravings come from? He says every behavior is a surface level craving and a deeper underlying motive. And so we do have the, like, for instance, eating. We're using eating a lot today, but the underlying motive is you need to eat to survive. So there is, that is drummed into us as human beings. If you don't eat, you won't survive. But then we take it a step further and we overeat. So he looks at the some of the underlying motives, like find love and reproduce equals using Tinder. Connecting and bonding with others is a deeper motivational need. So we browse Facebook. Win social acceptance and approval, posting on Instagram. Reduce uncertainty equals searching on Google. Achieve status and prestige equals playing video games. So your habits are modern day solutions to ancient desires, new versions of old vices. The underlying motives behind human behavior remain the same. The specific habits we perform differ based on the period of history. True, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So your current habits are not necessarily the best way to solve the problems you face. They are just the methods you learned to use. So exactly what you just said, if you've learned that smoking is supposedly going to reduce your stress, then that's the habit you're using. But in fact, you do need to reduce stress, but not like that. There's plenty of other ways of reducing stress, like going for a walk or doing some breathing exercises or listening to some relaxing music. You know, there's lots of things you can do. So habits are about associations, and these associations determine whether we predict a habit to be worth repeating or not. Every time you perceive a cue, your brain runs a simulation and makes a prediction about what to do in the next moment. And it's based on what worked for you in the past. So you're endlessly predicting what's going to happen and falling on what happened in the past as your reference. It's the way we operate. So our behavior is dependent on how we interpret the events that happen to us, not necessarily the objective reality of the events themselves. Now, this is a key point. Everything is all about how we filter it. When you study NLP, the study of human behavior, we can all see the same event and we all see it differently. This is why getting court cases where you're trying to determine what actually happened in a real life situation, and you go and get 20 witnesses and you get 20 different versions of what happened, because they're all filtering it based on their previous experience and what they believe to be true. So it's only when you predict that you'll be better off in a different state that you take action. Interesting. So predicting that you'll be better off by not smoking than that you'll be better off by smoking is that subtle change that then leads to the different action. The gap between your current state and your desired state provides a reason to act. Desire is the difference between where you are now and where you want to be in the future. And when a habit successfully addresses a motive, you develop a craving to do it again. They're attractive when habits are attractive when we associate them with positive feelings, and we can use this insight to our advantage rather than to our detriment. And I love this, programming your brain to enjoy hard habits. Imagine changing just one word. You don't have to, you get to. That is so powerful. And I've caught myself saying, oh, I have to go and clean that building. No, I get to go and clean that building because of all the good things. Like, I've got work. I'm going to get paid for it. I'm getting fitter while I'm doing it, you know, and start looking at what are the positives. And immediately you might not necessarily look forward to going and doing it, but you don't resent having to go and do something that you have to do. So just changing that have to I get to do this, and comparing it with different references. So Tony Robbins talks a lot about our references. You know, I get to go and clean a building. I don't have to go and fight Russian tanks today. You know, there's all that stuff going on. And I get to come home again to a nice home, you know, it's not underwater somewhere like as is happening on the East Coast a lot. So there's so many things. By changing our references, we change our whole perception of a situation.
When you get to, it's gratitude, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, you're highlighting your benefits rather than the drawbacks. Changing what you associate it with. And this is a great one. I've heard this before somewhere else. I think it might have been Dale Carnegie in his book about effective public speaking. You can reframe when you go to make a speech. You're asked to stand up in public, and you get all the feelings of nervousness and so on. By reframing, I'm nervous, to I'm excited, and I'm getting an adrenaline rush to help me concentrate. So the people who have to perform on stage, or they still get nervous just like anyone else, but instead they shift it to, oh, there it is. I can sense those feelings, the adrenaline and the breathing. Breathe, remember to breathe deeply, because they know that's their cue that I'm about to do something that's going to be exciting. I'm out there performing. So instead of getting, like say, crippled, or you know, they feeling that they can't do it, handicapped because they're feeling nervous. No, I'm not nervous. I'm excited.
And we were doing work with Carly on energy, and she said in your body, nervousness and excited are really close together. Like it's just a small shift from one to the other.
Yeah.
And she said, same with fear and courage.
Yes.
They're located in the same place in your body, and they're just kind of
it's the fight,
either up or closer to your spine sort of thing. And it's like, wow, that's fascinating.
Yeah, for sure. Fight flight response is the perfect example. Well, really, going on stage and feeling nervous is actually triggered by that fight flight response. You know, you either want to run away and not do the speech, or you fight in the sense of you get up and do the speech, which means you're confronting the thing that you're afraid of. And the more that you do that, the more that you confront things that you're previously afraid of, the more you change your references. Yes. So when you go, I'm scared or nervous about doing this, but hang on, I've already done that. So for instance, me knowing that I've dived down to 63 meters under the ocean and gone inside a World War II shipwreck, to jump into an ocean or something, I'm not going to be scared, because I can go, well, I've already done that. So what's this in comparison to that? I can do anything. So the more you go and do, challenge yourself to do things that you're sort of afraid of or you're nervous about, the more positive references you give yourself, that doesn't matter what happens, I can handle it.
Did you see they found Shackleton's ship?
Yeah.
I saw that on the thing last night, and I was like, that is fascinating. And they believe that it's not in the space where it went down. It's like done its own journey under the ocean.
Oh, the underwater currents can be pretty powerful, moving things along.
Yeah, because it was all in the ice, and that's why they couldn't find it before. But sent all their little crazy robots down and found it in perfect condition. Looks awesome.
Yeah, that's really good. Okay, so the summary at the end of that chapter there is just the inversion of the second law of behavior change is to make it unattractive. So if something you don't want to do, make it unattractive. Something you do want to do, make it attractive. Every behavior has a surface level craving and a deeper underlying motive. So even just recognizing that helps you sort of put it in perspective, doesn't it? You know, if you've got a craving to eat, it's like, well, you know, of course I need to eat. I understand that I need to eat, but do I need to eat this, and do I need to eat it now, and do I need to eat that much of it? So yes, I want to calm stress, but it doesn't mean I have to go and reach for a cigarette. So your habits are modern day solutions to ancient desires, and the cause of your habits is the prediction that precedes them. As in, I know I will feel good when I've eaten that. No, you won't. You'll feel guilty, and you'll like go, oh, I feel all stodgy now. Why did I go and eat that?
Yeah.
Or, you know, the cigarette that if you're wanting to be the non-smoker, going and having that cigarette might give you the temporary feeling of whatever, I don't know, the calming of the addiction, I suppose. But then afterwards, doesn't.
I was doing I was listening to the Tapping for Weight Loss book, and one girl was saying, you know, that we're eating two things, and they said, no, not, because I ordered the same thing you did. She goes, yeah, but I'm eating for pleasure, and you're eating for guilt. But she was having guilt come up as part of her thing. It was like, yes, fascinating.
That is fascinating, because yeah, food is, well, talk to Joe about that one. Food is used by a lot of people as an emotional crutch to deal with other issues. There's the sense of comfort and safety that you feel in eating, as compared to dealing with the trauma that you might have experienced somewhere along the way. Common things like, you know, sexual abuse or violence or nasty stuff, and people turn to use food to make themselves feel better. So being aware of those things and then reframing, coming up with positive references that you can use to support what you want to achieve. So it's powerful stuff, isn't it? So is there anything we found that we learned from last week that we were able to implement already, or anything in the book so far that you've noticed that you've been able to implement? I've started one, and that is when I get up in the morning, the first thing I do, probably after going to the loo, is to go and drink a whole big glass of water like this, big pint glass of water. Because I know that at the moment I'm working out in the heat a lot, and even though I'm consciously making myself drink more water, I know that I'm probably still not drinking enough, because it's, you know, it's been so hot, you're sweating all day while you're working. But then it's also the fact that you carry on, you sweat during the night, and you haven't had anything all through the time that you've been asleep. So the first thing you do is hydrate your body again. So I'm putting conscious focus on that's what I need to do, and I want to do, because I want to feel better. I want to. It also then, I know that it also helps with weight loss if you're hydrated. It helps your whole body system to work better, and you flush out toxins and all that sort of thing. Breaks down fats, etc., etc. So there's one simple thing: make it a habit. So first thing I do when I wake up is thank the universe, gratitude, and then I go and drink a glass of water. Anyone else done anything that they have noticed is different, or they use as a common habit that's helping them?
I don't know. I've done lots of kind of new habits.
Well, there's another one I noticed recently that I had got into a habit that I'd come home from work and, you know, sort of almost a stress relief thing. I would go and have a beer. And it suddenly dawned on me. I was like, I'm making this a new habit. I'm actually needing to go and drink a beer to sort of relax and unwind from work for the day. And I thought, that's not a good habit to be starting. So yesterday when I got home, I went and had a kombucha instead. And I got praise from my wife when she came outside and found I had a kombucha in my hand and not a beer. So, but you know yourself that it's so easy to slip into starting a new habit. So something you want to do and you're doing it every day, but then you go 2 days of not doing it. That's actually starting a new habit of not doing it. So watch out for those ones. Yeah. An old habit I got into in business was, we were talking about this the other week, Stan, is when you're answering the phone, smile.
Yep.
Because you immediately project a different sort of vibe through the phone line than if you're all grumpy and, you know, oh God, you're interrupting me, what do you want? It comes across completely differently.
Yeah, smiling, you just want to do lots of. And also, because then you're changing so you don't get the wrinkles so much, you get the beer instead.
Good. So have a think about that. What are the habits that you want to begin, that you want to make new habits of? And also think, what am I doing that I didn't really realize perhaps was a habit, but I don't really want to be having that as a habit. I need to break that. Have a think on that. And let's talk about it next week. And next week we will go into the next section, which is the third law. Make it easy. So that's got 4 chapters, 11 to 14. So don't leave that to the last minute. Make it easy. Okay. Did we learn something today?
Reinforce stuff, I suppose.
Reinforced. Good. We reinforced. Well, that's just as important because that's a habit of reinforcing things that you're learning.
Yeah.
Which means they're more likely to stick and you're more likely to follow through with the desired actions to get the desired results that you want, which is what we're doing, creating our ideal life.
Yes, lovely.
All right, thanks guys, and I'll speak to you after about getting the recording, Charlie, and have a great week.